The worst part wasn't the cancer. It was watching my son-in-law Brad pat my hand while robbing me blind. "Rest, Mom. Business is better than ever," he'd say after each chemo session. Meanwhile, he was writing checks to himself, creating phantom employees, selling inventory to his own shell companies at 10% value. 8 months of treatment, 8 months of theft. Tomorrow, the forensic accountant's report would be released at the board meeting Brad had called to officially take over as CEO. He thought he was inheriting an empire. He was actually walking into his own arrest. If you've ever been betrayed by family when you were most vulnerable, subscribe to hear how justice can be served with perfect timing. Let me tell you how cancer saved my company from the real disease. My daughter's husband. My name is Patricia Morrison, 62 years old, founder and CEO of Morrison Textile Solutions. I started this company in 1993 with $5,000 from my divorce settlement and a used industrial sewing machine. My ex-husband laughed when I told him my plan. "Patty, you were a housewife for 15 years. What do you know about business?" Everything I needed to learn. It turned out the early years were brutal. I worked 18-hour days, bid on every contract, took any job. Military uniforms, hospital linens, hotel bedding. If it could be sewn, I'd make it. My daughter Emma was 12 then, doing homework in the corner of my rented warehouse while I worked. "Mom's building something," I'd tell her when she complained. "Something that's ours." By 2000, I had 15 employees. By 2010, we had 150 and contracts with major hotel chains. By 2020, Morrison Textile Solutions was valued at $8 million, employed 300 people, and had facilities in 3 states. It's not bad for a housewife who didn't know business. Emma grew up in the company. She'd worked every position, cutting fabric at 16, running machines at 18, handling accounts by 22. I groomed her to take over someday. Then she met Brad Wilson at a trade show in 2018. Then everything changed. Brad was everything a mother could want for her daughter. Handsome, charming, with an MBA from state and experience at Fortune 500 companies. He courted Emma properly. Flowers, dinners, respect. He courted me too, asking about the business, praising my success, offering ideas for growth. "You've built something amazing, Mrs. Morrison," he'd say. "Emma's lucky to have you as a role model." They married in 2019. I gave Brad a position as operations manager, good salary, room to grow. Seemed grateful, eager to learn. For 2 years, he was the perfect son-in-law and employee. Never missed a deadline, always stayed late, treated. Employees, well, I started to relax, to trust. Emma was happy. The business was thriving. Life was good. Then came the diagnosis. January 2023. Stage 3 breast cancer. The oncologist was optimistic. Caught early enough, good treatment options, but it would be a fight. Surgery, then chemotherapy, then radiation. 8 months minimum. "You'll need to step back from work," Dr. Patel said. "Focus on healing." "Handle everything, Mom," Brad assured me the night before my surgery. Emma sat beside him, holding my hand. "You've taught me well. Let me carry the load while you get better." I was grateful, relieved. What a blessing to have family you could trust. The surgery went well. I got clean margins, no lymph node involvement. I started chemo in February, and that's when everything became a blur. The fatigue was crushing, the nausea constant. I'd sleep 16 hours and still feel exhausted. Brad brought me weekly reports, always positive. Revenues up 5%. Landed the Marriott renewal. Everything's under control. But something felt off. Maybe it was the chemo brain, but numbers seemed wrong. I'd built this company on knowing every detail, every percentage. Now Brad's reports were vague, summarized. Missing data I always tracked. "You need to rest, Mom," Emma would say when I asked questions. "Let Brad handle the details." March brought the first real flag. I was reviewing bank statements online between treatments. Old habits die hard. A $50,000 payment to Strategic Solutions Consulting. I didn't recognize the company. When I asked Brad, he smiled patiently. Remember, Mom? We discussed this. Efficiency experts to streamline operations while you're out. I didn't remember, but chemo affected memory, didn't it? Chapter 4. The investigation. By April, I'd noticed more irregularities. New employees I'd never approved. Equipment purchases that seemed inflated. Inventory levels that didn't match sales. Each time I questioned something, Brad had an answer. Emma would look at me with concern. Mom, you need to focus on getting well. The stress isn't good for you. But I hadn't built Morrison Textiles by ignoring my instincts. I called Cheryl Patterson, a forensic accountant I'd used years ago during a supplier dispute. I need you to look at something quietly, I said. Very quietly. I gave her remote access to our systems, told her to dig deep. What am I looking for? She asked. I'm not sure, I admitted. But something's wrong. Cheryl worked nights and weekends, invisible in the system. I paid her from my personal account. Told no one. During the day, I played the part of the sick, confused cancer patient. Let Brad pat my hand and tell me not to worry. Let Emma fuss over my medications. At night, I'd review Cheryl's findings on my phone. Building a picture of what was really happening. The theft was elegant in its simplicity and staggering in its scope. Brad had created 3 shell companies: Strategic Solutions Consulting, Wilson, Supply Chain, and Premium Textile Services. Each billed Morrison Textiles for fictional services. Strategic Solutions, $50,000 monthly for consulting. Wilson Supply Chain, inflated prices on every material order, with kickbacks flowing back. Premium Textile Services, buying our inventory at 10% of value. Then reselling at market rates. But that was just the beginning. Brad had hired 5 employees who never showed up, his gambling buddies from college collecting paychecks. Given himself unauthorized bonuses totaling $150,000. He'd sold equipment to his shell companies, then leased it back to us at inflated rates. 8 months of systematic theft. Total damage, $437,000 and counting. All while I was fighting for my life, trusting him with my life's work. The evidence was overwhelming, documented in Cheryl's meticulous reports. Bank records, incorporation documents, email trails. Brad wasn't just stealing, he was preparing to take over entirely by August. My treatment was ending. The cancer was responding, tumors shrinking. I was still weak, still exhausted, but my mind was clearing. Brad, perhaps sensing this, accelerated his plans. He called a board meeting for September 1st. It's time to formalize the succession plan, he told the board. Pat's been through so much. She deserves to rest. I played along, acting weaker than I was. Maybe Brad's right, I told Emma. Maybe it's time to step back, she cried with relief. You've earned it, Mom. Let Brad run things. You can be chairman emeritus. Brad's eyes gleamed with triumph. He'd won. The grieving daughter convinced her sick mother to hand over control. Perfect. The board meeting was set. Brad prepared presentations, showing his achievements during my illness. Revenue up, fictional consulting fees. Efficiency improved, fired loyal employees. Modernization, implemented his shell companies, integrated. He even had succession documents ready for signing. All I had to do was show up and sign away my company. What Brad didn't know was that Cheryl's final report was complete. 200 pages of evidence, bank records, shell company documentation. Proof of embezzlement, fraud, conspiracy. I'd shared it with my lawyer and the district attorney. They were very interested. The board meeting would indeed be memorable, just not how Brad imagined. September 1st, 2023, I dressed carefully, my best suit. The one from before cancer took 30 pounds off me. It hung loose, but the effect was what I wanted. Frail but determined. I arrived early, sat quietly as board members gathered. Brad strutted in, designer suit, confident smile. Emma beside him, protective of her sick mother. "Thank you all for coming," Brad began. "As you know, Pat has been incredibly brave fighting cancer. But it's time to ensure Morrison Textile's future." He clicked through slides, showing his improvements. The board nodded appreciatively. "Good numbers, strong leadership, clear vision. I propose we vote on naming me CEO, effective immediately," Brad concluded. Pat would remain chairman emeritus, of course, honored but unburdened. He slid papers. "Toward me, Mom, whenever you're ready." I stood slowly, gripping the table for effect. "Before I sign anything," I said weakly, "I'd like to present something." Brad's smile tightened. "Mom, you don't need to, I insist," I said, pressing. A button on my laptop, Cheryl walked in carrying copies of her report. "This is Cheryl Patterson," I said, voice growing stronger. "Forensic accountant. She's been investigating some ... irregularities." Brad's face went white. Emma looked confused. The board sat forward. Cheryl was brilliant, clinical, devastating. She walked through each shell company, each fake employee, each stolen dollar. Screenshots of bank records appeared on screen. Incorporation documents with Brad's signature. Emails discussing the opportunity of my illness. Total theft over 8 months, $437,000, Cheryl concluded. With evidence of conspiracy to defraud, embezzlement, and preparation for hostile takeover, the room was silent. Brad's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Emma stared at him in horror. "But wait," I said. "There's more." I nodded to my lawyer, who opened the conference room door. 2 FBI agents walked in. "Bradley Wilson, you're under arrest for wire fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy." The handcuffs clicked with satisfying finality. Emma sobbed as they led Brad away. "Mom, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know." I held her while she cried. "My daughter, my innocent daughter who'd believed in her husband. I know, baby. He fooled us both, but I hadn't been fooled. I'd been patient." The board voted unanimously to ban Brad from any involvement with Morrison Textiles. They also voted to reimburse my personal funds used for the investigation and provide additional security measures. "We should have been watching." The chairman said, "We failed you, Pat." "No," I corrected. "You trusted family. That's not failure. That's human." Brad's arrest made the business news. Sanino's betrayal exposed by cancer-stricken CEO. The story of building my company while fighting cancer resonated. Orders poured in from companies wanting to support a survivor. Morrison Textiles' value increased by 30% in 6 months. Brad's theft had accidentally triggered our best PR ever. The criminal case was swift. Faced with Cheryl's evidence, Brad pled guilty. 5 years federal prison, full restitution. His shell companies were dissolved, assets recovered. The gambling buddies he'd hired flipped immediately, testifying about the scheme. Brad had promised them jobs for life once he took over. Instead, they got probation and disgrace. The hardest part was Emma. She filed for divorce immediately, but struggled with shame and betrayal. "How did I not see it, Mom? How did I marry someone who could do this? We spent hours talking, crying, healing together." 2 women betrayed by the same man, bound by blood and business. "I can't work here anymore," Emma said one day. "Everyone knows what Brad did. They look at me with pity." "Then don't work here," I said. "Start your own division. Morrison Technical Textiles. New products, new markets, your own vision." Her eyes lit up. "Really? Really? But you earn it. No nepotism. Prove yourself." She hugged me fiercely. "I will." Emma threw herself into the new division. Smart fabrics for medical monitoring. Technical textiles for aerospace. Innovation I'd never imagined. Within a year, her division was our fastest growing. She'd inherited my work ethic, not Brad's greed. The employees who'd pitied her now respected her. She'd earned her place. By 2024, I was cancer-free. The doctors called it remarkable. I called it motivation. Hard to die when you're busy sending your son-in-law to prison and rebuilding your company. The cancer had been a fight. Brad had been a war. I'd won both. I returned as CEO, but differently. Emma ran her division independently. I focused on strategy, not operations. We hired a real CFO, implemented real controls. No family member could sign checks alone. No contracts without board review. Trust but verify became our motto. Brad wrote from prison once. A long letter about addiction, gambling, pressure too. Impress me. Mistakes? Stealing? He asked for forgiveness. I sent back Morrison Textile's latest annual report. Revenue up 40%. Emma's division thriving. My cancer in remission. Sometimes the best response is success. The forensic audit revealed. Brad had been planning the theft from the beginning. He'd researched my company before meeting Emma, targeted her at that trade show. The romance, the marriage, the perfect son-in-law act, all calculated. He'd seen a widow with one daughter and a profitable company. It's easy mark. Except I wasn't. Easy and cancer made me harder. Why didn't you confront him immediately? Emma asked once. Why the elaborate investigation? 'Cause accusations divide families, I explained. Evidence unites them. If I'd accused Brad without proof, you'd have defended him. Instead, you saw the truth yourself. That's healing, not harm. The cancer taught me about fighting. Brad taught me about vigilance. Combined, they made Morrison Textiles stronger. We implemented employee profit sharing, created a scholarship fund for workers, children, donated to cancer research. Brad stole $437,000. We've given away twice that. And it feels like victory. Today, Morrison Textiles is valued at $12 million. Emma's division contributes 35% of revenue. We employ 400 people across 5 facilities. The company I started in my basement now outfits major hotel chains, supplies technical fabrics to NASA, and develops smart textiles for healthcare. Not bad for a housewife who didn't know business. Brad gets out in 2028. He'll be 38, still young enough to rebuild. Emma will be divorced, successful, stronger. I'll be 67, cancer-free, running a company that survived both disease and betrayal. Thought my illness was his opportunity. Instead, it revealed his character and reinforced mine. The FBI agent told me something interesting. Brad had incorporated a 4th shell company, Morrison Legacy Industries. He'd planned to transfer all assets thereafter, becoming CEO, leaving the original company a hollow shell. My life's work would have become his theft portfolio. Cancer saved me from that future. My name is Patricia Morrison. I built a textile empire from nothing, survived cancer, and exposed my son-in-law's theft while undergoing chemotherapy. He patted my hand and robbed me blind, thinking disease made me weak. What he learned is that some people get stronger under pressure, and mothers protecting their legacy are the strongest of all. The forensic accountant's report destroyed Brad's plans in one afternoon. 8 months of theft unraveled in 30 minutes. He walked into that board meeting expecting a coronation. He left in handcuffs. The cancer that he thought was his opportunity became his downfall. While he focused on stealing, I focused on documenting. Guess which strategy won? 2. Those facing betrayal during illness. You're not as weak as they think. Document everything. Hire professionals. Trust your instincts. The person patting your hand might be picking your pocket, but that doesn't mean they'll succeed. Sometimes cancer reveals more than tumors. It reveals character. Brad's was malignant. Mine was resilient. Tomorrow marks 2 years since that board meeting. I'm cancer-free, company secure, family healed. Brad's in federal prison. His shell company's dissolved, his theft reversed. He thought he was inheriting an empire. Instead, he inherited exactly what he deserved. Nothing but time to think about the woman he underestimated. The worst part wasn't the cancer. It was watching family betray trust. But the best part? Watching justice arrive with perfect timing, wearing a forensic accountant's sensible shoes and carrying 200 pages of evidence. Cancer tried to kill me. Brad tried to rob me. Both failed. That's what happens when you build something real. It survives everything, even the people who try to steal it while you sleep.